Hey guys, welcome to my channel. We are reading A Dog's Journey by W. Bruce Cameron. Haven't really read for a while, but we're just going to start reading. We are on chapter 11. And here we go. Chapter 11. Most of the days I spent lying in a pool of shade in the yard, watching some birds hop around in the wet grass. The only time I wasn't thinking of my hunger was when I saw Gloria standing at the glass doors, staring at me as I lay in the backyard. Whenever Gloria looked at me, I felt like a bad dog. Otherwise, I was starving. Wherever CJ was, I knew she wouldn't want me to go without dinner. Several times I restlessly went into the house to check my food bowl, but it was always empty, and there was nothing else to eat unless you counted some socks I found in the basket. I didn't eat the socks because I had chewed up similar items before and knew they would prefer no real satisfaction. I licked the bowl anyway, imagining I could faintly taste some food there. Cruelly, I could sometimes smell food on the air, delicious odors that I associated with people cooking. Somewhere, someone was grilling meat. It was probably far away, but I knew my nose would lead me to it if I got out of the yard. There were two gates in the yard. The one next to the garage was tall and made of wood, but the one on the other side, through which CJ seldom went, was made of the same steel as the fence and was, in fact, even a little shorter. With a running start, I could probably clear it. The idea wouldn't leave my mind. I would leap over the fence and follow my nose and find the cooking meat, and a person would give me something to eat. Though the whole concept made me drool. Just thinking about leaving the yard made me feel like a bad dog. CJ would need me to be here. I couldn't protect her if I ran off in search of a meal. Whimpering, I went back through the doggy door to check my food bowl again. Still, nothing. With a moan, I curled up and sick emptiness in my belly, too strong to allow sleep. I was in the basement when I heard Trent calling my name. I ran out the doggy door, and he was standing in the yard, whistling for me. I was so happy to see him and barreled him into him, and he laughed and wrestled with me. I could smell Rocky all over him. "Hi, Molly. Are you okay? You miss CJ, don't you?" I heard the back door slide open, and Gloria was standing there. "Are you here to take him with you?" she asked. "Molly is a she," Trent said. I sat at my name. "Have you been feeding her?" "Have I been feeding her?" Gloria said. I felt a small jolt of emotion, alarm, maybe go through Trent. "You haven't fed her?" "Don't speak to me with that tone. I assumed there was food out for her somewhere. No one told me any different. But I just can't believe you'd let a dog go hungry." "And that's why you're here, for the dog, right?" An ugly emotion was coming off of Gloria. Something like anger. "Well, yeah, I mean, you're here because you think feeding the dog will get you in good with Clarity. I know you got the hots for her." Trent took a deep breath and then let it out very slowly. "Come on, Molly," he said quietly. I followed Trent to the backyard gate, looking over my shoulder at Gloria when he stopped to open it. She was standing with her hands on her hips and staring at me in my eyes. It made me frightened the way she looked at me. Trent took me to Rocky's house and fed me. I was really hungry and growled at Rocky when he tried to get me to play before I was ready. When I was finished, my belly was pleasantly full and I felt sluggish and just wanted a nap. But Rocky had a rope in his mouth and was running around in the yard as if I could never catch him, which of course was untrue. I ran over to him and grabbed the other end of the rope, and we pulled each other around the yard. Trent was watching, and he laughed, and when he did, Rocky looked over at him and I took advantage of the lapse in attention and yanked the rope away and took off, Rocky in hot pursuit. That night, Rocky and I lie together on the floor of Trent's room. Ardently exhausted, I had momentarily forgotten about CJ in the battle of for the rope, but now in the dark room I missed her and I felt sad. Rocky sniffed me and nuzzled me and licked my mouth, eventually resting his head on my chest. Trent left the next morning, and the way he did so, getting more and more hurried as he dressed, gathering papers, led me to conclude he was doing school. Rocky and I wrestled, played more with the rope, and tugged a couple of holes in the backyard. Oh my gosh, dug a couple holes in the backyard. When he returned home, Trent fed us and spoke crossly to us as he played with the dirt, filling in the holes we'd made. Apparently, we, or at least Rocky, were bad dogs for something, but we didn't know what. Rocky stood with his head low and his ears down for a while, but then Trent petted him and everything was okay. We were wrestling and Trent was in the house when the side gate clatched. Rocky and I barked, running over with our fur up, but I dropped my ears and charged dorsally when I saw my girl standing there. "Molly!" she cried happily. "Hi, Rocky." Rocky kept shoving that stupid rope in the way as CJ dropped to her knees and put her arms around me and kissed my face. Then Rocky whipped his head up and ran over to where Trent was coming out of the back door. Rocky greeted Trent as if he'd been gone as long as CJ, which was ridiculous. "Down, Rocky." "Hi, CJ." CJ straightened up. "Hi, Trent." Trent kept walking up to CJ and hugged her. "Oh," CJ said, laughing a little. They got out the leashes for a walk. The leaves were falling from the trees, and Rocky and I strained, dying to pounce on them as they skipped along in the breeze. But the leashes kept us in check. I was so happy CJ was back, and I realized also really happy to be with Rocky and Trent. It was not up to me because I was just a dog, but as far as I was concerned, we should just live here at Trent's house. If Gloria didn't move in with us, that would be okay with me as well. There was a click and a flash of flame then CJ's mouth was full of the smoke from the small stick. "They won't let you smoke in there, God," she said. The minutes went by so slowly you could practically hear them. "What was it like?" "It was horrible." "Juvie?" "Not really. Just, I don't know, strange. I lost the 4¼ pounds, though. So, that's something good," CJ laughed. "The guys are on the other side, and we never see them, but we can hear them all right. There's a lot more of them than us girls. Most of the girls in there were in trouble for doing something for their boyfriends, if you can believe it." "Like you?" Trent said quietly. We were having such a great walk when Rocky passed trees and bushes. He had to stop to mark them, and I usually squatted in the same place because I could remember the same completion, though it wasn't as important to me now. I didn't know Shane was going to steal stuff. You knew he was going to steal the test. He was going to copy that test, not steal it. And it's art history, not like math or something. God, you too? Trent was quiet for a moment. "No, not me. Sorry." Rocky leaped on the bowling leaf and picked it up and tried to tease me with it. But once it was in his mouth, it was just a leaf. So because I was on academic probation, I'm not on academic submission. Big woo. And you've never seen so much paperwork. I bet you international spies don't have a file as thick as mine. Suspended? For how long? Like, just this semester. But that means you won't graduate with the rest of us. That's okay. The outfits are ugly anyway. Those hats? Come on. No, I'll graduate in mid-year without pomp. It's all been worth it for how mad it makes Gloria. That she won't be able to sit with all the parents and call attention to herself when they say my name. And that's it. Suspension. Also community service. I picked up the coolest thing, training dogs, service dogs. I looked up at her at the word dog. She dropped her hand to my head and petted me, and I licked her fingers. Good dog, Molly, she said. At the park, they unsnapped our leash and Rocky, and I took off gloriously, happy at the cool air. Free to race around the park, wrestling and running just as we did in the backyard. We could smell the other dogs, but none came. Dashing alongside my brother, I felt as full, energetic joy as when bath punishment was over and I was allowed to jump on the furniture. Sometimes Rocky would stop and turn to look to see if Trent was still there. Rocky was a good dog. I could tell CJ was still there because the acrid smell of the smoke wafted off her, even when she wasn't actively putting fire in her mouth. Many people emitted the same smoky odor, and I'd never much cared for it, but I loved the way it mingled with CJ's unique scent because it was CJ. Still, I sometimes wish she still smelled the way she did as a baby, when I would sniff the top of her head, drinking her in. I love that smell. Rocky and I found a rotting squirrel corpse in the corner of the yard. I love that smell too. Before we could roll in it properly, though, Trent called us and we raced back. They put the leashes back on us. Time for another walk. At Rocky's house, Trent and CJ stood up by CJ's car. I waited by the door and a little anxious that CJ might have forgotten that I was a front seat dog. Good luck with your mom, Trent said. She doesn't care. She wasn't even home when the taxi dropped me off. Taxi? I would have picked you up. No, you would have had to cut school. I don't want to corporate everyone with a criminal influence, CJ said. We took a car ride home, and I was in the front seat. When we got home, a man was sitting with Gloria on the couch. I went over to sniff him, wagging, and he petted my head. Gloria stiffened and pulled her hand up. I didn't sniff Gloria. CJ remained standing by the front door, so after greeting the man, I went back over to with her. Clarity, this is Rick. He has been very helpful during these difficult times you've put me through, Gloria said. I have a teenage daughter, Rick said. He held out his hand, and CJ touched it. I go by CJ, Gloria calls me Clarity because that's the one thing she'll never have. Gloria. The man turned to look at Gloria. So I did too, though, and the truth pretty much avoided her eyes. She calls you by your first name? I know, Gloria said, shaking her head. See, that's the first problem right there, the man said. He seemed nice enough to me. His hands smelled like grease and meat, and also Gloria. She asked me to call her Gloria and not Mom because she didn't want strange men in the grocery store knowing she had a daughter my age, CJ explained. She's very concerned about what strange men think about her, as you might have figured out. Everyone was quiet for a minute. I yawned and scratched behind my ear. Okay, well, good to meet you, CJ. I'm going to take off now. Your mom has some things to talk to you about. That's so very special that you're here to tell me that, CJ said. We went to CJ's room. I curled up in my usual spot. It was wonderful to be back home with my girl. I was pleasantly tired from wrestling Rocky, and I couldn't wait for CJ to crawl into bed so I could lie there with her and feel her hand on my fur, on my neck. The door opened and Gloria came in. Can you at least knock, CJ said. Did they knock on your prison cell? Gloria responded, yes, and they had to ask permission to enter. What do you think? I know that's not true. I stood up and shook, yawning anxiously. I didn't like it when Gloria and CJ spoke to each other. The emotions were too strong and dark and confusing. So what's the deal with the guy? CJ asked. He acts like he's auditioning to be my stepfather. He's a very successful businessman. He knows a lot of managing people. I knew he'd be successful, or you wouldn't be making out with him on the couch when I came in. He has given me a lot of advice on how to handle out-of-control children. I'm worried about you, Clarity. June. I could tell how worried you were when I got home 8 hours late from being released and saw you drinking wine in the living room. CJ sat on the bed and I jumped up next to her. I could barely smell her with Gloria's odor wafting through the room. When I glanced at her, Gloria was staring at me, so I looked away. She made an exhaling noise. So, okay, she said. The first thing is, you're grounded for the whole rest of the year. That means no dating, no boys over, no talking on the phone. You can't leave the house for any reason. So, when the court calls to find out why I'm not doing community service, I'll just tell them. Gloria says I'm grounded. They'll be okay with that. There's one guy from death row they can't execute because he's still in trouble with his mom. Gloria stood there for a moment, frowning. Well, obviously, she finally said, you can do that. And Christmas shopping? You aren't going to ground me from doing that, are you? No. I'd have to make an expectation for that, of course. And obviously Thanksgiving at Trent's. No, absolutely not. But you said you're going to someone's house. Rick's. I suppose you want me alone on Thanksgiving? CJ's hand scratched absently at my ear, and I leaned into it. I wanted Gloria to leave now. Well, I suppose you could come to Rick's with me, though. His children will be with their mother, Gloria said slowly. No way. Are you serious? Fine. Then you can go to Trent's, since I already gave permission. And what about Jaina? You told me you wanted me to hang out with Jaina because her father is on the board of the country club. That's not what I said at all. I said that Jaina was the type of person I wanted to see you spending more time with. And yes, Jaina could come over. What if she wants to take me to the club for lunch? I think we should handle these things as they come up. It's too hard to figure them all out now. If you get a special invitation of some sort, we'll talk about it. I am ready to make exceptions where they are called for. I can see that Rick has been a real help to you with the parenting stuff. That's what I said. And there's something else. More punishment besides getting grounded with exceptions? Come on, Mom. I've already been to juvenile hall. Isn't that enough? CJ's hand had stopped stroking me. I nuzzled it to remind her there was a deserving dog here who needed more petting. I don't think you understand how humiliating it was for me to have you hauled out of here in handcuffs, Gloria said. Rick says it's a wonder I don't have post something. Postpartum depression? Little late for that. That's not it. That does not sound like it. I'm sorry this whole ordeal was such a nightmare for you, Gloria. That's all I was thinking about as I was sitting in the back of the cop car with you standing there in front of the yard. How much worse you had it than me. Gloria sniffled, and she turned to look at me. I edged my eyes away quickly. Rick says it's your lack of respect for me that is causing all this, and it all started when you brought home that dog. It worried me to hear the word dog coming out of Gloria's mouth. I think it started when I realized you were my mother, so you're going to have to get rid of it, she continued. What? I looked anxiously at CJ, feeling her shock. Rick says your bluff won't work. Nobody is going to believe you if you say you were left here by yourself when I took the occasional break. Not if I say I had a babysitter, which, by the way, I always offered to provide one, and you said no. And I took you on a cruise, which is proof right there that sometimes you got to go with me. Do you know how much money that cruise cost me? You've got to learn who is in control of the house, and that's me. You're not going to get rid of Molly. I cocked my head at my name. Yes, you are. No, never. Either you get rid of the dog or I'm taking away your car and your credit cards. Rick says it's ridiculous for you to have a card on my account. So I'm getting my own account? No, you have to earn it. When Rick was your age, he had to get up early to do something with chickens every day. I forgot that. Forget what? Okay, I'll raise chickens. Shut up, Gloria shouted. I am so tired of your smart mouth. You are not to speak to me again this way. Not ever. You have to learn this in my house, and we live by my rules. Gloria jabbed a finger at me, and I cringed. I will not have that dog in my house. I don't care where you take it, and I don't care what happens to it, but I will make your life a living hell, you and that dog, both. CJ sat on her bed, breathing hard. She was distressed. I moved as quickly as possible over to the bed, nuzzling her hand and doing everything I could not to be seen by Gloria. You know what? Fine, CJ said. After tomorrow, you won't see Molly again. And that is the end of chapter 11, guys. I will see you guys in chapter 12 in the next video.